Hey everybody, welcome back. I am going over another interesting topic, I think. And if it didn't click for you during some of the last examples, I think this one will help. And this also has a lot of emphasis in how the Bible tries to rectify or reconcile the differences between males and females, and that how we're one thing, yet two separate things. It's like, how can those things be true at the same time? Well, it's like we're two sides of the same coin, and without each other, our species wouldn't exist. So we are in a necessary, you cannot get rid of this reciprocal cooperative relationship between males and females, or else our species doesn't exist anymore. So in understanding, that's what the Bible is getting at. And then there's the yin and yang aspect of Taoism to try to understand these differences. What are these differences? What are the things at play to understand that difference? So the Bible gives us that understanding that, hey, these are two aspects of our species that are inseparable, are interdependent, yet independent. So they're interdependent on each other, yet dependent or independent. So they need each other, but they can stay separate as their own understanding of their own characteristics. So to fully understand the differences between males and females, we must first use generalizations based on rationalized extremes. And we'll go into the rationalized extremes of each category and underlying dichotomies. I'm only going to list a few so we don't go on to a super long video for no reason. You'll get the idea and the relationship between these ideas as I go. People will lay these out forever. So once people fully understand what this brings and how it helps us understand each other and bring us together more rather than apart, then it will help a lot. And if we do not do this, we cannot understand the underlying differences, as males and females are more similar than we are different. So in being more similar than we are different, it's hard for us to pinpoint exactly where males and females are different. So we have to make a case for the extreme. Like, again, true dichotomies have to rationalize the extreme in order for us to understand the total spectrum of the differences. So we're going to do that. The differences are not the results of a social construct, but rather innate differences in the way we think. The evidence is clear both scientifically and intuitively. In this way, it is not bad if you do not fit into one of these two extremes, but are part of the whole, that is the human species, brought about by male and females coming together to maintain our species. So the evidence is clear. It's borne out in studies in the Scandinavian countries, which have done the most to try to minimize the societal differences in both the upbringing and outcomes in terms of equity and equality of outcome, or even equality of opportunity. They've maximized those things. And what they've seen is the biological differences in choice have maximized. So there's innate differences between males and females that are not the result of socialization or nurture. It's the result of our nature. It is of our nature. So there's no argument against that as far as we've found. So there's no more evidence. There's no evidence contradicting that claim that male and female nature are two different natures. So we're just finding more and more evidence for it. I haven't seen any against it. So the evidence is clear. And then if you don't fit neatly into one of these roles, that's okay. Like, you're still part of humanity and everybody still needs you and you have something to offer. It's not to say that, yes, the procreating in the species is important, and bringing everyone together, both male and female, to create that two sides of the same coin is necessary, but not everyone's going to be able to do that. And that's okay. It's okay to be imperfect, and everybody's imperfect in their own way. So it's okay. And you don't have to go and say that these are all things that we should get rid of because you're not able to be part of it. It's like, I know you have that resentment inside of you that you can't be, that you're working so hard to be part of, and then you're either getting rejected because you haven't worked hard enough to better yourself, you haven't done things to improve yourself so as to be attractive to the opposite sex or whatever sex you're attracted to. So you in order to properly align yourself with this, you need to understand that it's okay not to be perfect. So we're just going to rationalize the extremes. And the first one is order versus chaos. So extreme order. Due to hemispheric differences, males often embody extreme order, driven by their left hemispheric focus on rationality, logic, and categorization, and also empiricism. This manifests in the male tendency to structure and systematize the world, seeking to control and predict their environment. Males, through rationalizations, attempt to bring order by naming, defining, and manipulating their surroundings. However, this can lead to an overemphasis on specificity and control, where the broader context and interconnectedness of things are lost. The male drive for order can inadvertently lead to conflict and war, as the pursuit of control and dominance disrupts natural harmony and creates division. So in establishing that order, in creating those manipulative surroundings and defining things, we create a boundary or a border between us. Here's how we think, and here's this other group, and we think differently. And now we're at odds with each other because of our rationalizations of reality. And then we have to fight over it because there's conflict. So in creating that order or structure, the more rigid and orderly it becomes, the more extreme it becomes, which means it's getting away from all these other aspects that we have to take into consideration. And it gets rid of that homeostasis, which I will go over in another video. Homeostasis is probably the most important thing that true dichotomology has to teach, because it teaches you, it's going to teach society how to get to heaven. So we need, and obviously that's a religious language, but it's a real place that we can achieve when you take all equilibriums into account when it comes to society, order, chaos, all the different true dichotomies that we can think of. And we try to take it all into account to where they're all in equilibrium with respect to themselves and with respect to each other. That would be, I consider it, a homeostasis. It's the same thing that happens in your body, which I'll go over in another video as well. It's like at the level of your body is trying to organize things so that they're in homeostasis. It's like a medical term. Like it's trying to figure out the right balance between different chemicals, different hormones, all the different aspects of your body in order to regulate you and keep you functioning as a being. So that is the extreme of males. So the extreme female or the extreme chaos dichotomy would be, in contrast, females guided by the right hemisphere often embody aspects of chaos. This isn't chaos in a sense of disorder, but rather a holistic, that same, like you're trying to think of too many things and then you lose specificity. This is why females have a harder time deciding or picking where to go eat or making decisions. It's because they're making so many connections that they often lose that specificity or ability to specify what they want or when they want it. Or, there's so many things involved, they can't focus on the one thing. And this fluid understanding of where relationships and context takes precedence over rigid structures. So it's all about what that relationship is to each other thing, and then within a particular context, over rigid structure, principles, etc. That's why females have a harder time living by principles, whereas they more care about relationships, drama, etc. So they're more oriented towards people for all of these reasons. And women focus on the interconnectedness of things, mostly people, seeing the world, or beings, I would say. That's why they have, more relationships with other beings as well, animals, people, babies, etc. Seeing the world in terms of networks and relationships. However, this can lead to overcomplication and difficulty in making decisions, as this attempt to consider all relationships and contexts can be overwhelming, especially if you have too much. There's too much happening, then you can't. But it's a beautiful and necessary thing in order to balance out somebody who's getting too specific. So as you get more and more specific, you need someone to balance you and say, look, you're getting too specific. You're not taking all these other things into account, which is why I think the duality of male and female, we have to have harmony and coexist naturally. And that's why we need to alleviate freedoms. And I think we've been on the right track when it comes to allowing freedom of choice and equality of opportunity. But we need to be very careful not to go to the extreme of equality of outcome, because that is where you start to, you stop taking people's freedoms into account, personal choices, interests, and you start pushing them into a world that you conceptualize, and it's going to be control. So it's going to be I think it's going to be like females operating on these intuitions, and then males trying to codify it and enact it into law. So it's going to be, those are the two types of people that are going to be like trying to implement these types of extreme positions, is people that do not understand the full context of what they're trying to implement. Because if they knew, they would not. If they open their eyes to it and understand it, they would not want what they're advocating for. And it would be absolute tyranny is what it would be. So the female inclination towards chaos fosters creativity, adaptability, but can sometimes result in lack of direction or clarity. And people like if you've interacted with enough males and females, you intuitively know this. And yes, there might be the occasional one or two males that act like females, or females that act like males, and there's nothing wrong with that, because you were still chosen and molded by reality over 3.5 billion years. Like, I don't think I'm smart enough to say like this is how you should be at all times, and nobody should be any different outside of these two binaries. But that's the thing, is there's so much overlap between the males and females that we can't make that distinction. But in order to understand what's at work behind males and females, we need to understand the full true dichotomies that are at play. Okay. So we're one being, I would say, but we're two separate beings at the same time, which is a beautiful thing. But their left hemisphere doesn't want to hear that. It's like, I hear one answer, I want to hear one answer, and one answer is the only way to look at it. But in reality, it's both. We're two separate beings, and we're one being. If you look at it from an evolutionary perspective, from every other perspective that, across time, like if we didn't have each other, we wouldn't exist. So we need to cooperate. We need that reciprocity, and we need to understand each other better. And I really do think that this is going to help people understand both sides better. So all you ladies out there, just know that your way of thinking is not crazy. And in order for males to understand it, I'm going to help them by laying this out for everybody. So, okay, so you have rationalists and intuitionists. I've gone over this in another video, but this pertains specifically to males versus females. So it's not like a male can be an intuitionist or think more with intuitions, but in order to understand the main differences between males and females specifically, I need to rationalize the extremes. And males are more rationalist, females are more intuitionist. So males align with the rationalist thinking, emphasizing logic, analytical skills, and empirical evidence. This left brain approach leads to systematic problem solving and theoretical innovation. Rationalists prefer clear, defined parameters and rely on data to drive their decisions. This can result in groundbreaking technological advancements, and precise scientific theories. However, an over-reliance on rationalism can cause males to miss the subtleties and emotional nuance of human experience and meaning, leading to solutions that may be effective in theory but lack rational harmony. And intuitionists, when it comes to females, I'm going to make an extreme case again. So females often embody intuitionist thinking, valuing holistic, empathetic, and contextual aware approaches. This right brain orientation allows them a deep understanding of social dynamics and emotional intelligence. Intuitionists excel in areas requiring nuance, judgment, empathy, and creative problem solving. This is why they're mostly nurses. They take care of people because they have that holistic understanding. Whereas when males are in these things, they're just like almost cold. It's like, do this. This is what needs to be done. Like, yes, there is that necessary that some people are good at both. Like, especially males, like we're really good at rationalizing, becoming specific with what are the things that we need to implement in this way to solve this problem. But we need both of those ways of thinking. But females are better at this way of thinking on average. So it's like they're going to be in those positions where they're trying to take care of people because it requires so much nuance and understanding of the relationships between things, rather than just, okay, this patient is going through this problem, here's the solution for that in this situation. It's more like, okay, well, am I really being as empathetic? Am I really being ensuring that this person is getting the care that they need? Like all these other aspects that have to do with relationships and your relationship to them, their relationship to other people, rather than just here is the problem, here is the solution, and that's all I need to consider. So, however, this approach can sometimes lack precision and replicability of rationalist methods, leading to decisions that, while rationally sound, might lack empirical support. So you're more or less, it's just connecting things that aren't necessarily connected, or making decisions on things that aren't necessarily figured out. It's like the same reason why a female can have a dream and they try to connect it rationally to, they try to rationalize it to what happened, something that happened in reality. They just know they felt a certain way and they attribute that to you or attribute it to whatever else. So sometimes they get lost in their feelings. Sometimes they get lost in intuition because it's an abstract thing that goes off into infinite chaos. So it's of your right mind, of your right hemisphere, and it's trying to draw those connections and associations. Okay, things versus people. Rationalizing the extreme. You have things. Males generally focus on objects, systems, and technologies driven by their interest in how things work and mechanics behind them. This is bore out in not only our species, but other species that have no social constructed way of perceiving male versus female. It just all happens naturally. And male monkeys, I think they did rhesus monkeys was the main study. They just show that males are interested in things like toys, like tractors and stuff like that, where the female rhesus monkeys were interested in dolls. So this is one of the biggest differences between males and females is that of things versus people. And I didn't even go into the personality differences, which I need to as well, because I could just kind of state it after things versus people. So this inclination leads to advancement in engineering, construction, and physical sciences. The male preoccupation with things fosters innovation and technical expertise, contributing significant infrastructure and technological progress. However, an exclusive focus on things can result in neglect of interpersonal relationships and emotional well-being, potentially leading to isolation or lack of social cohesion. This is also another reason why males are so secluded and they have a hard time with socialization. That's one of the issues that they have when it comes to when they go wrong, when they have a social issue, right? They become secluded, isolated, and they try not to interact with other people because they see that as the problem. They see the social aspect and the relationship with everything as the problem, and they're trying to solve it by getting rid of it. Like, okay, I don't have to. So they either do that through isolation or they kill everyone. So it's like, here's all this relationship. I don't like this relationship. I'm going to either end it by isolating myself, getting away from everything, or ending that relationship so nobody else can have it and they don't have it anymore. And then obviously they get rid of themselves. So that's what happens when males go to the extreme. In females typically prioritize relationships, social interactions, and human dynamics. They are adept at understanding and navigating complex social networks and emotional landscapes. This focus on people enhances community building and social harmony and emotional support system. The female emphasis on interpersonal relationships ensure that societal advancements are integrated with empathy and human connection. However, this can sometimes come at the expense of technical or objective advancements, as this focus on relational dynamics might overshadow the pursuit of technological innovation. So again, this is one way in which females are held back, and that's okay because it's a necessary component of our civilization. Like not all females can think in a rationalistic scientific mind, and in doing so, it's still okay and it's necessary, but again, to rationalize or understand the extreme or the differences between males and females, we have to rationalize that extreme. So this harmony of things versus people is something that is held in tension with each other. So it's not like one, we can have one without the other, because if you have relationships without a means to engage with those other individuals through science, or like we don't have the backing of all these rationalizations, like this technology that I'm talking to you guys through, this is all a rationalization. And it's a beautiful rationalization, because as long as it's in the service of something that has to do with relationships. So if we build all these computers and it's for the sake of our hedonistic pleasure, it's for the sake of like all these other aspects that we shouldn't care about, then it's empty, it's soulless. Whereas on the other extreme, you have nothing but an emphasis on meaning and relationships, and then we never get to rationalize anything, and nothing ever progresses and nothing ever gets better, which is exactly what you see. Like you can see a place that has nothing but intuitionists, and it manifests in people who are dogmatic and religious and perfectly religious, because they see this doctrine as being the answer for everything, whereas rather than a way to find meaning towards a specific goal. So rationalizations are important, intuitions are important. So rationalism and intuitionism are both beautiful, beautiful things. And I don't want anybody to think that one is better than the other, because they both can go wrong and they both can go right. And we want to make them both go as right as possible. Even though there's going to be conflict along the way, it's impossible to avoid. So females, I just want you guys to know, the way you think is beautiful. Don't let anybody make you feel like you're irrational. And in reality, the right hemisphere is smarter. The right hemisphere sees the connections and actual relationship between things, whereas the left hemisphere makes stuff up. So we're making things up. We're manipulating the world, creating an imaginary world that actually affects reality, which is amazing. But that's what the male brain is doing. It's creating a fake world so that we can engage and interact in it, with it, and make relationships with it. And it's beautiful. Two different ways of thinking, both of them. So we need both. And so ideas versus relationships. Males often gravitate towards abstract ideas, theoretical constructs, and intellectual innovation. They thrive at exploring new concepts, solving complex problems, and pushing the boundaries of knowledge. The inclination leads them to significant advancements in philosophy, science, and abstract reasoning. The male focus on these ideas drives societal progress by challenging existing paradigms and introducing novel solutions. However, an overemphasis on these ideas can disconnect males from the practical and relational aspects of implementation, leading to solutions that may be brilliant in theory but lack practical application or emotional resonance. So again, males emphasize ideas, and those are all the abstract stuff. So everything I said before between things versus people are tangible. So everything's tangible when it comes to this other one. This other one's intangible. These are ideas, concepts, and so it's almost like we're playing with things in an abstract way in our minds. So we're manipulating these ideas. How does this all fit together? And that's what our left hemisphere is doing, whereas our right hemisphere, I'm going to go over in a second, is more of a female way of thinking. So the females generally focus on and prioritize maintaining and nurturing relationships between things and people, understanding the importance of social bonds and emotional well-being. This focus ensures on communities remain cohesive and supportive, fostering environments where individuals feel valued and understood. The female emphasis on relationships facilitate social stability and emotional health, ensuring that intellectual and technological advancements are applied in ways that benefit communities holistically. However, this can sometimes lead to resistance to change or innovation, as maintaining relational harmony might prioritize or over disruptive but necessary advancements. So yes, there's going to be times where like our society becomes somewhat unstable, but in doing so, we're going to grow and synthesize new harmonies because of it. And I think dichotomology is one of those things. Like our understanding of dichotomies and true dichotomies and understanding them is going to facilitate what I think is going to be the most life-changing perspective change of our society. And it's not just a result of me. This is everyone that's done all this before me, everyone that will continue to work on this idea after me. And I feel like it's all of our idea because I just made the connection between it all. And I'm not going to be the first. And probably other people are doing the same thing right now and they're figuring this out. But the thing that clicked it all for me was the left and right hemispheric differences. That's really what the association that I made. I was like, well, I understand the elements of a true dichotomy, but where is this all coming from? Like, why do these things exist? Well, there's a series of things in reality that are true reality that our brain tries to map onto, and that's what it's trying to do. That's why it's bifurcated, is to take care of these two aspects of perception that are necessary to understand reality, for us to operate in it. So understanding these dichotomies reveals the dynamic interplay between male and female perspectives, emphasizing that both are essential for a balanced, thriving society. Males being order, rationality, technological innovation, while females contribute chaos, intuition, and relational harmony. This integration of these perspectives fosters a holistic understanding and an approach to problem-solving, innovation, and social cohesion. By recognizing and valuing these complementary strengths, we can create a more harmonious and dynamic reality where both order and chaos, rationality and intuition, things and people, ideas and relationships are balanced and integrated. It is important to understand how the male and females are two sides of the same coin and a reflection of how necessary both are in regulating each other. Females have given a back seat to rationalism and in doing so have learned to hate themselves. They do not see themselves as see the value and purpose in their associations of meaning and relationships between everything. This has been due to the absolute success of the outcomes of rationalism in our scientific pursuit of meeting particular ends. But in doing so, we have lost much of which gave us this meaning of these pursuits in the first place. That is our relationship to everything and everyone. So, and then I can go over the personality differences. There doesn't seem to be a big one in openness, which I would expect to have a female bias, which is interesting. But it's probably because it's measuring both hemispheres. Like how open or receptive is your left hemisphere to these new ideas to try to synthesize something new? And then how open is your right hemisphere in creating these connections? So I think openness is a measurement of both hemispheres. And then conscientiousness, it doesn't seem to be much of a difference. The main difference is men are more orderly while women are more organized. It's something like that. So women tend to try to see the relationship between everything, and then they try to clean it up. And then males, they try to create a system or order in that system to make sure it's running smoothly. It's almost like the difference between like a caretaker and a politician, maybe. So then there's extroversion. It doesn't seem to be a big difference in extroversion. I think slight female bias when it comes to more extroversion. Agreeableness. Females tend to be more agreeable, and this would make sense when you're not sure of the outcome, which men are sure of themselves. The left hemisphere is sure of itself. So obviously, if you're more left hemispheric, you're going to be more sure of yourself. And if you tend to be more right hemispheric, it makes sense that you're going to tend to be less sure of yourself because it's both and thinking. Like both of these things are true. So I can't really come to a conclusion about which one is actually true. So then there's neuroticism, and this has also a female bias. So higher neuroticism tends to be more female. So, and this makes sense when it comes to the infinite expanse of your right hemisphere, and in particular when it comes to the way our societies treat females right now. I've seen it through my whole life. Like there's a lack of appreciation for motherhood, lack of appreciation for the female perspective, lack of appreciation for that right hemispheric perspective, for the relationship between things and how beautiful it can be. And females have been pushed more and more to be left hemispheric in thinking, like science driven, etc. And this is what's manifesting in the liberal perspective right now. It's like all these females who are either distraught, been damaged by men, been hurt by men. They feel ousted by society based on their perspective. It's like the right hemisphere is super suppressed, and their answer, the left hemisphere answer, is to destroy it all. And that's the feminist answer. That's the postmodernist answer. They want there to be, they want this power differential between the hemispheres to be in balance. And that's what we're not advocating for in our society. So we need to. So it's all connected. It's all interrelated back to society at large and how it manifests in politics, how it manifests in every aspect of our society. And I truly think that if more people think and perceive the world this way, that it will be a better place. So that's what I'm advocating for. And that's what I want. I want everyone to be, I want us to all find that homeostasis within our society. And I think we'll get there. All right. Love you guys. And my next video, I think it's going to be about stability versus chaos. And then I have another one about the equilibrium and homeostasis within our body. So it's like, this is the homeostasis in our bodies. And this is the same thing we're trying to manifest in society, especially a free society with principles and all these other things that we're trying to take into account as many things as possible. And our society is doing that. So I think those are going to be two pretty interesting ones. I might not upload them today, but at some point this weekend. But I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your days and love you.